upgrades. Hey.
Oh yeah.
Get some skins on this. Yeah. Hey, it's Steve. Welcome back to Clear Direct. This is Fuselage Part 3. But before we get into the fuselage build, we're going to cover some motherhood items. First off, the elephant in the room is that I've rearranged things. I lopped about 3 feet off the table, pushed it in that corner, and gives lots more room for activities.
So many activities! You like guacamole?
The airplane is growing. It's almost on its leg. But let's talk upgrades first. Then we're going to get to talking about an engine issue. Okay, first off, check these out. Aerosport Products sent me the wingtips. Look awesome. There is the standard ABS or plastic wingtip, and you can see the difference in shape and how much extra trailing edge span you get out of the these Aerosport product one. The other benefit with these guys is you don't need to cut a hole in your leading edge spar because you can just cut that out and put a landing light right there. I'm gonna leave that since I already cut the hole in my leading edge and used the landing lights that I've already got installed. Okay, there's also obviously a spot for the tip lights, which I've got the 3-in-1, so strobes, nav, and tail position light. And as you can see here, the little switches. So before we get into that, here, let me show you the mock-up of the carbon panel. I'm trying to put as much carbon fiber in this thing as possible. Not for any reason other than I just think it's light, it's modern, and I think it's a great material. And I like the folks over at Aerosport Products. Not sponsored, I'm just saying that that's a place to get some really cool upgrades for your RANS S-21. Okay, back to the switches. The Aerosport Products folks custom made these for me, but I am gonna put in a backup battery. And kind of like Mike Patey did in Scrappy, he's just gonna go left to right. So I figure backup battery first, then master battery. You're gonna hit the boost pump, get it started, then turn on the alternator, then turn on the avionics master, and then just to keep kind of the colors over here red, pitot heat is gonna be right there. I might put it over on this side, I don't know. I've got room, I think, for 6 switches on each side. That's why you see them lined up this way. Accessories, landing lights, strobe lights, nav lights, cockpit lights, like a dome light. And then map, this is kind of cool. I'm gonna wire up a manual reversion for the second G3X, which brings me into another announcement. I was gonna wait and do a second G3X touch 10-inch screen later, but I just decided I don't want to build the plane more than once. Just go ahead and put in 2 right off the bat. So what that does is that allows me to fly with, PFD1, MFD1 over here normally, but if I'm doing training with my son or something, or if I want to fly right seat, I can just flip a switch, boom, and now this is going to become another PFD, right? If that one fails, it would anyway, but this you're manually putting this into PFD mode. I think that's kind of cool. We're going to have GFC 507 here, we're gonna have GNX 375, and then G5 right there, okay? Engine, Titan is taking forever. Continental is clearly way behind the timeline, and I reached out to RANS and they said that they're moving production back to Mobile. I don't know if they moved it to China or to where. I suspect they probably did, but they're in the process of moving the engine manufacturing back to Mobile, Alabama. So once that gets up and running, they're hoping that it'll increase production. I know, Ruben, you're behind me in line and you're gonna be happy staying there. I'm gonna be watching out for you coming up with a tire iron.
Why?
But I've been thinking that maybe another option is better. I'm not gonna say anything more than that other than I've been looking around and I've been thinking about putting a different engine in. So the jury's still out on that. A couple people have mentioned they were waiting for my engine choice video, and that's gonna wait. All right, Eagle Eyes have noticed there's another piece of carbon fiber, the fairing. So the tail cone to vert stab fairing is right there. I've been thinking a lot about paint schemes, and I wanna do a little bit of clear coat to accentuate the carbon fiber on those guys with red and some mountains right there. Okay, you guys have already seen the pull handle right here. Other things you might notice, got the ELT in there. I've got the GPS and VHF 1. My old F-15 days are coming out. VHF 1 right there, and then I've got the doubler installed, but no antenna quite yet down there for VHF number 2. I've also got the ELT mounted in there, and as well as routed coaxial up to the antenna. So that part's done, with the exception of the remote has to come forward, and then I got to figure out where to put on the panel the remote switch for the ELT. Okay, the buckets are there just to prevent any shin schwacking going on, but that's going to be next step is to mount the wheels, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That pretty much completes the update. Hope you guys enjoy the new look of this garage. I'm actually trying out a new camera. It's actually a new iPhone, and they say the cameras are good. So let's get building. Here's Fuselage Part 3. We are working on the tail cone. I'm actually removing all the skins right now. So we're gonna remove all the skins, clean them up, and then rivet everything down, while remembering a couple things to do is to get some antenna doublers riveted in to take advantage of the fact that the holes are not riveted yet. And so rather than putting in a bunch of new extra holes for doublers, I'm gonna try to take advantage and put some doublers behind stringers. Okay, something I did a little bit out of order, but for a reason, is I waited to drill. So here's the window support angle. I waited to drill the 3 holes right there into the middle longeron in order to shack the middle line right there, so I could kind of move it back and forth in case it didn't fit right. Clamped it down, double clamped it down, so it hasn't moved whatsoever. It's clecoed in up at the top. And so now I'm going to start with one drill, put a cleco in, remove one of the clamps, and then so forth. Okay, here's kind of a gotcha. Here is the shortest stringer. I called it stringer B. You've got to drill an extra hole in this stringer. And you can see where I have it marked, because it lines up, essentially lines up right there. All right, so don't confuse that hole with one of the pre-drilled holes, or else the spacing of the lines on the skin is going to be off. So I just marked it. I'll take it over there to the drill press and we'll take care of it. Like that, we'll probably just drill it to 40 and then in place, drill it to 30, final size it. Something I don't think I showed in the last episode was the bend in these stringers. That was unnerving to do, but clearly you have to match the curve from the aft tail cone to the forward tail cone. And when you bend it, it wants to curve off in one direction. But once you cleco it in, it'll kind of force its way right. I don't want to bend it any more than I already have. But again, it's a little bit unnerving, but it went just fine. Support it. It wants to, even though I drew the line right there, tried to bend it right there, where's the weakest point? It's going to want to bend at that hole. So you want to support that hole when you're bending it. Let's talk about trim lines for a second. I'm talking about a couple places that you've got to, you don't have to, but if you want it to look right, you want to take a shear and trim a couple areas. That's what this rope or string is doing here. So I think I might have mentioned it earlier. Take a string and match this seam and elongate it up towards the front edge. You can see it's there. Why I have these back on is I thought I marked it, but I had a couple different marks there. I wasn't sure which one was which. So I just put everything back on, lined it up again, sure enough, found my original mark. I think there was a separate mark for measuring the center and measuring for the distance between those stringers, but regardless, I've refound the cut line, so I'm gonna have to shear that. And then you also want to shear from here down to here. There's a mark there to match up with the lower fuselage skin, and on the other side, of course, as well. Here. down. So, oh, and then one more area. Look at this right there. Don't want that. So I've got it marked right there, and then also another mark to stop the cut right there. So I'm gonna take a level or a straight edge to mark those lines, so that when I take it to the EAA Builder's Assist area at the Bend Airport, I'm mindful of what I've got to shear. And then I've made a whole bunch of other notes in this area. Things I gotta do before stapling this tail cone together. For example, I gotta rivet in the GMU11 mount from the bottom. You can't see it right now, but discovered that haven't done that yet. Because you take a break and you forget to do certain things. We talked about antenna mounts and doublers, ELT, upper comm, lower comm I haven't done yet. Lower comm as well as the transponder I haven't located yet. GPS done that, transponder, oh there it is. Okay, pulley cotter pins, final size to number 30, the center top stringer, skin holes. Okay, done that, that's what I just did. Bend forward top side tabs on aft tail cone skins. Oh, that is inside of here. I'll take these off and show you a little bit. You want to bend those up so that it doesn't kind of compress or crush this corner right there. Drill aft holes of the C-stringer. I did that. Edge form the forward edge of the side top forward tail cone skins. Okay, so you want to take an edge form tool to right here so that it kind of hugs right there, because then the door will close next to it. I don't believe you do it down here, because the next skin will just pick up on the outside of that and continue on. So what I'm not sure is where that picks up. I don't know how that works. It's probably behooves me to read ahead and figure that out before I just finally staple that together, rivet it together, because maybe they share some holes. I don't know. I just want to be double sure before you start drilling out rivets, as you've seen me do. And then, of course, just deburring, cleaning all the holes before we get to stapling this whole thing together. As far as the magnetometer harness, I might have mentioned it to you, I'm doing a backup power, and I don't know if the CANBUS kind of all-in-one wire that I bought for like $6 a foot. This guy, I gotta put my good reader glasses on to see if it has an extra power cable to carry power back there, because like all the essential avionics, GSU 25, GAD 29, GEA 24, you've got 2 power inputs with a diode inside that it's smart enough to figure out which has the higher voltage. So typically your alternator will be running it, and then if that drops, then the backup battery picks up power for that. Hoping they can help me out. Nice. Nice sling. Where you at, Mojo Grip? It's a Murphy. I'm guessing it's a Rebel based upon the tail. 254 Murphy Rebel. There's the brake. Here's the shear. Oh yeah. Just transferring this line to the other side. Hard part's done. Now for the easy part. It's okay. Hi. Did you hear me? Hey. The final thing I need to do that I was unable to do in that machine is this right here. Pretty much got to do it by hand. So whip out the Dremel tool. Cleaned up the shop, thank goodness, because it's about time to get these guys back on the table to just clean up. And then we're gonna get to riveting real soon. So That's a major milestone because you've seen it. It's been like this for a couple months now. When shearing this side, you can see I put a pretty good little dent in it. So I'm gonna try to fix that now. It's like my high school buddy, Mike Shinoda, said, once a paper is crumpled up, it can't be perfect again. But that's pretty good. All right, found a little washer to kind of support the area right around it. And then I can kind of dimple it in. I don't want to go too hard or too far. Yeah. Better than before. And with paint, never happened. Yo, check it out. Deburring. Start with 400, move to 800, and finally 1,000. And it takes a little bit of time. Might be overkill, but I really don't want to use a full-on hole deburrer on this 20,000th sheet. I think it just cuts a little bit too much. So, and I think Eddie Gill's a fan of this method as well. Just try to get all the major scratches out. Upgrades. So BAS Incorporated, Eatonville, Washington, makes a different, a Cessna Taildragger style pull handle. Okay, comes out of the side of the fuselage. There's aerodynamic top to it. I'm not sure how it works, but it looks like it locks in via these little guys, but on both sides of the fuselage. And the placement of the RANS pull handle on the vertical stabilizer it seems to me like it'd be interfering with the horizontal stabilizer. So I like the idea of this. So I'm gonna get this put on. My only question, having already bought it, is just to ensure, I've already consulted with somebody else who has this, Ruben, you know who you are, that it doesn't interfere with anything safety related, right? They assure me that it's safe, it won't interfere with the control cables, which I will obviously verify that. A couple other notes, it's only 11 ounces, which is pretty nice. It's made of 6061 T6, so that's perfect. Only question I have right now, other than the control cables, is these squeeze rivets. I do have a squeeze riveter, but I'm not sure what the best way to get around. Ooh, maybe with the tail cone skin off, the yokes will be long enough to reach these guys, but that's my only question right now. And worst comes to worst, I'll just figure out what the correct depth is and replace them with APQ Cherry Qs. It's not listed on their website, but they do have these available at BAS. Not sponsored, so let's check it out. Okay, I've got it located between station 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and 7. And it definitely clears the rudder cables. So the rudder cables, at least 2 inches or so of clearance there for the rudder cable. So that's good. And I don't think I'm going to be able to use the squeeze rivets. Unless, I don't know how big my yoke is. I'll probably just end up having to use APQs or Cherry Q rivets. Okay, got it all marked up, located, measured about 4 different times. From the edge of station 7 flange, it's about 1.25 inches until it touches this flange, and that'll vary per aircraft, but I just want to make sure that that distance matches this distance, thereby making sure that this is square with the aircraft. So now that that's all located, I'm going to start match drilling size 40. That long drill bit's going to come in super handy. Before I rivet, I obviously have to locate the center hole and cut that out. Luckily, there are 6 holes, so it's pretty easy to find the center. Okay, I've got the center pilot drilled out. I'm going to step it up. The instructions say to go to only 3/8, but the diameter is an inch, so that's a lot of filing. So I'm going to go up to about 7/8 and then file the rest. Yeah, the inner tube won't even pull out, so 7/8 is ample. You don't want to go 3/8, you'll be filing forever. I might not have even been to 7/8. Yeah, no, I'm not. There we go. You know, if you were off at all with your center drill, you can finish it off with filing, and then you can push the tube in a little ways, so you're not gonna. There you go. You can save yourself some space by pushing that in, and then you got space to file around there. Looks like I've got most of the material to take away on the top. You don't need to watch that. Looking pretty good. It's obviously not riveted yet, but pull that thing off. You're ready to rock. But before we rivet, we have to final size the 6 surrounding holes to number 30. And I believe it's probably going to use an APQ 42, but I'll have to do some math to figure out if that's the right depth. But I do know that I'm not going to use the supplied squeeze rivets, just for lack of tools. Con my eldest into helping me. Okay, so
Hoping that looks semi-even. I think.
Yep. Go ahead and pull. Good. Yeah. See the rivet nose didn't hop off, so it means you were putting perfect 90-degree pressure on it. So, nice job. Awesome.
Where'd the rest of it go?
The mandrel, sometimes they get sucked in. That's what this is. So if you hold upside down, yeah, you can hear it there.
There you go.
Yeah. So now just 6 more over there.
Good. Okay. And then I'll take the glucose off.
Got the cotter pins installed. And then the 2 remaining cotter pins in this bag go right there to retain the cable, but not ready to have the cable hanging out yet. So that's just temporarily installed. Working on the doubler for the GA35 Garmin GPS antenna. Number 11 for these 4 holes, and then for the center, the coaxial, about a 5/8, 0.630. Locating the COM1 VHF antenna up here, and I'm catching the stringer, so put it sandwiched between the stringer and the skin, as well as the spacer strip right there, so it has a little bit extra rigidity, because this thing, you know, has a few pounds of force when you're hauling the mail. Also, you kind of gotta make sure that it's aligned with the wind stream. So even though it looks a little bit off, it's true with the airstream. Obviously, it's going inside. Not too shabby. All right, next for the ELT. Well, my first attempt at bending metal to make an ELT mounting tray ended up less than successfully. Apparently, aluminum has grains, and if you go along with the grain, has a tendency to crack and break. So go against the grain. But I have started working on my ELT mounting device or mechanism. It's super easy. I just took some angle and mounted them in those locations, and now it takes the bends out of it, and now I'm just gonna fabricate up that tray, rivet that tray to those, and then I'll drill some holes for some nut plates for the ELT tray itself. So that's gonna go there and screw in with nut plates. Pretty easy. I guess while I'm here, there's the COM2 antenna location, and I've still got to do the ELT location right there. getting a little closer, even though I'm disassembling, getting closer to final riveting. I put in, routed the Taildragger steering cables and put in the pulleys as well as the cotter pins. A little Pro Seal just to kind of keep them in place from wiggling around. I also had Pro Seal to those bolts as well as those bolts. That's the tail wheel attach locations. These guys are ready for prime time. This is ready for just cleaning and then a little bit of priming. Actually, I don't think it needs prime because it doesn't have any stainless steel connections. Those guys need priming because it touches the metal cage, or excuse me, the steel cage. I bought some different conduit for that. I didn't like the way that kind of sat in there. It was just a hair large, even though it sits actually really nice. I just wanted something that doesn't, have a tendency to put any sort of pressure on the underside of those bulkheads. So I'm gonna swap that guy out and hopefully we'll be priming and riveting tomorrow. So here's the replacement conduit that really has a pretty good tendency to curl up, so I'm kind of straightening it out with a heat gun, working pretty good. As I'm cleaning these, I'm noticing just a little bit of contact there and there. See that? And where that corresponds is to these angles. So I'm filing them down just a hair. I actually bent this in just to make sure that's not contacting. But on the worst one, you can see right here, I felt quite a bit away. I think that'll just help relieve some of that stress that's witnessed right there. It is damn near 60 degrees in January in Bend, Oregon, so got the garage open, which is very timely because I'm finishing off priming some parts that are going to contact with steel. And what else am I doing? I'm finishing the design, just figuring the rivet sizing for different sorts of metal and all my doublers to figure out the rivet schedule. I'm about to put in the ELT tray, and then we'll get the doublers inside of these skins and then get these skins, on the fuselage. On this ELT tray installation, I don't know if you can tell, but I got one rivet in and already dinged the floor. So, two things to know. One, put a sacrificial protectant down there. The other thing is these come in pretty handy, flush nose riveters. I might have the name a little bit wrong, but you can get in there a lot better with those, even though I did kind of ding the bottom up. Better than this guy. Now, the one thing, actually, let me think about that. So I was talking, that's the goodness of that. So maybe I'll try this one. In that regard, they're about the same. But this part is the problematic part right there. Can't really get in super close. So let me think about that and try it again. Okay. A little bit of removal necessary. Let me show you what I mean. That little effort was in the way to rivet that properly. I tried riveting initially from this way, but due to this little bend here, it wasn't working well. So drilled it out, as well as drilled out this guy. I just wanted him out of the way because I didn't know at that point I wasn't gonna go this way. But the answer is flat side worked out just fine using this guy because it's a swivel head. So it works out great, but this little piece of sacrificial aluminum to help protect the bottom is absolutely necessary. But all right, it's going a little bit better. Let's keep going. So pretty when you take off the protective wrap. Unfortunately, I need to prime it because both the tray is stainless steel or steel, I'm not sure if it's stainless, and then the nut plates are steel. Silicone sealant for the conduits. Got them clamped down, drying. Got some bags on them. Getting the stringers in place. Getting ready for riveting. Is this top, bottom? Which way is forward? Aha! Kind of since we're off on our own private Idaho making these things that aren't part of the kit, I did borrow from the kit and for these 3/32 nut plate rivets. So I'll make a little note, 8 stolen for the ELT mount, ordered today's date, and the place that you can find those, not the exact same rivets, but 3/32 aluminum mandrel, aluminum rivet, round head, kind of equivalent to these things, are on erivets.com, I believe is what it is. If it's any different, I'll put it up on the screen. It's a company called Hansen Rivets. And these aren't the bolts I'm gonna use. I'm just gonna use Phillips stainless steel pan head screws. But they do serve, they're 3/16 and essentially equivalent to 1032 for the thread pattern. So they fit in those nut plates. And so they're just serving as a template. But to get at that rivet, you just have to take it out, and if you look, leaves it nice and square right in the middle. All right, this plate is about 1/16 of an inch. It's 0.063. I think that math is right, but it is 0.063. And then the angle brackets are about the same, 0.063. So 1255 is the math I did to get the thickness, which is just barely beyond the AAPQ 42. So I'm using AAPQ 43s. Worked out like a champ. I'm finally making some progress. This feels good. So something that hasn't been installed for a while that you can't forget is not only the upper portion of the aft baggage area, but also the longeron doubler, right? It kind of makes a C channel with the 2 L brackets. So do not forget that. I could see kind of forgetting that easily. So I've also primed, you can see that's why this is here, primed the underside of this longeron, tops of the longeron, and then both sides of the angle, the window support angle, in preparation for these stainless steel rivets. So they're the ones that go boom. It would help if I had a battery in my rivet gun. That was, I was so close. I prepped you for a boom, and I was gonna go boom right at the second I said boom, but there's no battery. A couple reasons I take the battery out of this frequently. One, if I'm just not working for a while. Number 2 is this is where the other tips are. So the 3/32 tip is located in there. And number 3 is when I'm cleaning it, I'll retract the mechanism and then take the battery out, and then it leaves the mechanism retracted. So, and then you put it back in and then hit the trigger, and then it resets itself. So now, the right tip, we're ready to finally rivet this. I've got a Glico up here, just keeping this aligned. Anticlimactic. Oh yeah. CCPQ 43s, since it's going through essentially 2 sets of longerons, 2 1/16. All right, do the other one. Get some skins on this bitch. All right, we are pre-placing the stringers, and now it's time to get this ELT doubler installed. And I'm pretty sure you could start a fairly successful YouTube channel doing this. Oh yeah. It's no G3X touch screen or an iPhone screen, but that works. Okay, for the rivet schedule for the ELT doubler, I'm just gonna continue using AVEX along this stringer and that stringer, even though it has a whole bunch of metal underneath it, because, so here's what it looks like. Right, it's got the stringer, it's got the doubler, and then two things of skin. It equates to 0.135. And look at this, look how big this range is for that AVEX rivet, 031 to 187. So it's still well within the bounds of the AVEX rivet. If I went with Cherry Q, it'd be a -43. And as I mentioned, the stringers get the AVEX, so I'm just gonna continue with the AVEX. In the middle here, it's just skin and a 40 doubler, so 60 thousandths, which is just under the max for the 41. 41, max of 62. So that's how I figured on the rivet schedule. Here's what it looks like underneath. Now, talked to a former FAA inspector about this setup, and I know some of you are gonna give me crap because of the step right there. Why don't you just bend it and attach it to, it's just a lot more work, and that's actually more rivets and whatnot. So that's the way I've chosen to do it, and it's very simple and it's very clean. I wasn't even gonna add these two rivets, but given the fact that the wind is pushing this direction on it, I wanted to have a little bit more rigidity in the span of that doubler. Okay, let me talk the plan of attack for just a second. Before I start riveting, I am gonna fit up the windows, not the windows, but the window skins, if I have enough rivets, just to kind of make sure everything is aligned. Okay, what I've learned is you kind of want to have as much stuff put together before you start riveting. That way you're not missing something, as well as the alignment works better. Because I haven't even riveted down here. Okay, so once everything is in place, I'm gonna do a final alignment and then get the bottom riveted and then start working on the tail cones. The last thing you wanna rivet is the spine after doing yet another alignment, because that kind of sets everything. One thing that I kind of was looking at is right here, this was a bit of a sharp edge where there's kind of a tight corner. So I just kind of filed that down just a hair. And then I realized I need to get the spacer strips installed. So don't forget that. I could see kind of forgetting that. Something that's not entirely obvious is you're not supposed to rivet anything right here, because eventually that's gonna go right there. See all those holes? So avoid this line right there, but you can rivet pretty much, I think, everything else. I don't know yet about the bottom. I don't know how the bottom fits up, so I'm not going to rivet that quite yet. I will rivet the stringers. Thanks to Biker Bill for his help to flip this over. The next step is to get the seat rails in and ensure that the bolts are clear for the seat belt attachments. Just taking a drill and making sure that the powder coating didn't prevent the bolt from going through, and then you can fit up the belly skin. So make sure you get that done. 5/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 by 3-point harnesses if you're using that. And I'm not sure if I can get in this way. Nope. So I'm gonna have to either put on the angle, probably the angle drill to get in this way. Well, another specialty bit, I guess, or a reamer. The place with the helpful hardware folks came in again, in handy with a 5/16 extension. We're gonna see if this works. Oh, they also had this steel rod, so 36 inches by a 1/4 inch, perfect for aligning your seat rails. Hey Siri, turn off the garage outlet.
Okay, the hot water circulation pump is off.
It's a racket. Hello? $15. Hope I didn't just waste it. Yes. Seat adjustment rails, racks, whatever they're called, going in. Got a steel bar. Works out perfectly. I'm not going to talk too much to this process because there's a fantastic video by Josh at Project 2 Aero. If you don't subscribe to him, you are missing out. So make sure and pay Josh a visit and comment on his videos because they are amazing. I've learned a lot, and I've watched this video like 3 times, and have a clear understanding. The instructions are horrible, but so just watch that video. It's worth 1,000 words. I'm gonna shut up now. And we're doing the belly skin and side skins. Belly skin, you've got some stringers to cut, and then you put them in to prevent just oil canning of the unsupported areas, or the previously unsupported areas. Now they're supported, but they're not riveted in. You got this 3M 1/2 inch acrylic VHB tape that these are all taped in there. And so it is ready to go. All the holes are clearly sanded. That's gonna go upside down. And then what I have left to do is just, they've all been trimmed and fitted and match drilled, the side skins. And then there's only one piece that needs a stringer, and that's right here, okay? I am hopeful that we're gonna get this installed either tonight or early tomorrow, and then I'm gonna flip it and get it up on its landing gear tomorrow. I guess I should catch you guys up. I haven't been filming a whole lot because it's just kind of redundant, just fitting and match drilling and getting sheet metal ready to go. I did the seat adjustment rails, and what's this is the belly skin that needs stringers put in, and they're non-structural. They're just to prevent oil canning of the otherwise unsupported metal. So you can see areas that I've traced lines from underneath inside of the cage, right? Like right here, which kind of trace some of these, and then I'm not willy-nilly doing it. There is definitely some instructions on how to do this, but these stringers are cut and then they're taped in. Now, I don't know if I did a poor job in cutting stringers previously and just didn't leave a whole bunch of extra and did a lot of math, or didn't do the math required. I looked at my scraps and I sure as heck don't think that there was like 10 feet of extra stringer in my scraps. So I think I was missing a stringer, or more likely I will probably find one rat holed in one of my kids' rooms underneath a flap or an aileron. But regardless, I went to the big box store and found something nearly identical, and they're non-structural. It's just to prevent some oil canning, so I have no problem in just self-sourcing. So you can see this is RANS supplied stringer material, because you can see a hole, 30 size hole every 2 inches, and then of course that's not. It's just a 1/16 angle by I think 1/2 inch or so. But it'll do absolutely just fine for this purpose. And this is ready to go. Absolutely ready to go. I just need to get the side skins right here deburred. That's it. And then the one stringer or oil can support goes right there. So that's pretty quick. So obviously one on each left and right. And first thing in the morning, we're gonna get this thing riveted in. I think I'll do some wet riveting because I believe these are probably, stainless steel rivets. But let me show you something else that some of the other YouTubers have pointed out is in S-21 Project. Tony, awesome job in talking about your spacers. So he cut his own spacers, and he opted not to go the washer route. I opted to go the washer route. Funny story with that here in a second. And why you need spacers is because not all of these are perfect. It's not going to provide a perfectly clean mounting solution. So some of these are just a little bit bent in. You might need a washer there just to provide a nice straight mounting solution. Okay. So what I did was I bought some washers, and while I was at Home Depot, I went to Google and I thought I was typing in Google, hey Google, what's better, zinc or stainless steel against aluminum for galvanic corrosion? Somebody heard me saying that. Turns out it was an FAA DER, designated engineering rep. And we got in this whole conversation. He's a Mooney pilot, I'm a Bonanza pilot, as well as, you know, building this plane. And so we got into a great conversation. He might be watching this video now, along with some of the other FAA friends that I know that watch all my videos. But he pulled up the galvanic chart and showed me that zinc was much better than stainless steel, and it was cheaper. So regardless, I still am priming it. Oops. Here are all of my eventual spacers, aka bumper washers, 1/8 inch clearly, but those will be perfect to just provide a spacer so that the skins will go on nice and neat. So that's first thing in the morning. And then second thing in the morning, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, we're gonna flip this thing over and get it on its landing gear. Well, before we flip it, we're gonna build up the landing gear, so that might be, I don't know, might be optimistic to think that I'll get it on a landing gear, but that's the next step. Now that the belly skin is in place, I've got the side skins up on the table to deburr and get this one stringer in place, or two stringers in place. Kind of saw a ding right here. So I figured out where it was, and it turns out it's this big weld right here. So I'm not sure if I should just kind of sand it down or put a spacer in, but I don't know, we'll figure it out. Here's something that's not completely obvious. If you look at the parts manual, you will see 3 rivet holes in the area between the aft side skin and the middle or forward side skin, and it only comes pre-drilled with 2. Okay, so yeah, there's 2 extra ones. That was just for, I think, just tooling. So disregard the outside ones. These ones you're supposed to match drill onto here, but then this was completely blank. So you gotta pay attention to the parts manual to see that there's a 3rd rivet in the middle. I mean, it just makes sense that there should be one here. Just drew a line between the center of these 2 holes and then figured out the middle and marked it and drilled initially with a 40 and then match drilled and then final sized. So don't forget this little guy, easily forgotten. Something else that's probably worth mentioning, if you're following the text manual verbatim, you would have flipped the fuselage back over right side up by now. I have done this whole process of fitting the belly skin, fitting the side skins with the fuselage upside down. Yeah, it took some gymnastics to, you know, climb inside the cage and drill up and drill this way and whatnot, but honestly, I think that doing it this way is better. In related news, I strayed from the instructions. So these holes to match drill the belly skin to the side skins, they say to start doing them here with a 0.3 edge distance. I actually did it up there. So when everything was in place with the side skins in overlapping or underlapping the belly skin, I kind of drew a line. It's been sanded out by now, but you can see that line, okay? So, and I also drew a line where this tube came into play. Okay, so a line, you know, here, and then a line there where the metals overlapped. And then took everything apart, but then I actually just, see this red line? I don't know if you can tell it's red, but I drew the edge distance right kind of in the middle between the edge of the tube and the edge of the side skin overlap, and kind of just went in between half, pretty close to 0.3 edge, and you know, no less than 0.3 edge distance. And then I just did it. I initially started with a 40 on the belly skin, and that was super, super easy to then, once everything was back mounted, now just transfer drill down this way, 40, and then final size to 30. Whereas the instructions have you do it the other way around. They say to do it on the side skins first, and then transfer drill going this way. And just there's just so much to block, and it's just so easy to go down this way. So something that I strayed with, and I think worked out pretty well. It's been a while since I've used these dimple dies, so kind of practice. This is going to be for not this part, but the dimple die is back out to flush rivet underneath where the main landing gear attaches. Let's do it. So if you don't know yet, I'm doing tail wheel, ready? Oh, nice, dude. New jet, new day. And upon test fitting it last night, I realized I had two things I had to do. I had to prime it. Got it. It's powder coated, but it is steel, so I just want to give it an extra layer of protection, aluminum versus steel. We had a conversation last night about galvanic corrosion. And I did notice one area of interference. It wasn't bad, but I trimmed that out. And what it was doing was it was like right underneath this tab for a nut plate. I don't even know what it goes through right now. Potentially rudder pedals, I don't know. But it was like touching it, and that screw would interfere with it. So I just kind of trimmed it back. And so now there's a little radius right there, should fit fine. Maybe I'll show it to you when I get it installed. Okay, I got the side skins on, so it's time to put the belly skins on. The next step is to obviously finish Cleco in the top and then work on spacers. And by top, I mean bottom. But I'm going to leave this episode here. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, you're clear direct.
I'm gonna find a way to dance, even if they tie my feet.